The wind howled through the jagged cliffs of the Alps as Alina Mayer stood at the edge of the forgotten trail, her breath turning to frost in the bitter morning air. Life had taken more from her than she ever imagined. Her husband, her savings, her stability, her peace. Now, with a 13-year-old son depending on her and nothing left but determination, she found herself climbing toward a place she once swore she would never return to. Her late grandfather had spoken of it only in whispers. A sealed-off WWII bunker buried deep inside the mountain, built as a hidden command outpost in the final days of the war. Locals called it the Iron Heart, a fortress carved into ice and stone, rumored to hold secrets that could collapse governments even today. Alina didn't come seeking danger. She came seeking answers, answers locked in the past, linked to a cryptic letter her grandfather had left behind. The letter mentioned a war room that had never been found, a chamber sealed beneath the bunker where high-ranking officers carried out covert operations. As she tightened her grip on the rope anchored to an ancient pine, she whispered, "For us, Lucas, just hold on." Every step toward that hidden entrance felt like stepping deeper into history itself, and deeper into a truth she feared might change her life forever. By noon, Alina reached the rusted steel hatch half buried under decades of snow and shifting earth. The mountains groaned as if warning her back, but she pressed forward, scraping away ice until the faded Nazi insignia revealed itself, something she never wanted her son to see, yet something she had to face alone. She pulled the lever with frozen fingers, coughing when a burst of ancient air escaped like a ghost exhaling after 70 silent years. The narrow corridor beyond was colder than the outside world, lined with concrete walls stamped with dates, codes, and orders preserved as if the war had ended yesterday. Her flashlight flickered across a map room littered with overturned chairs, rusted radios, and binders swollen with damp, time-eaten papers. She stepped carefully, as if intruding on a meeting frozen mid-sentence. Her grandfather had served here as a young signal operator, a fact he refused to discuss even on his deathbed. He had only whispered one final warning: "If you find the war room, do not go alone." But alone was all she had left. With each echoing footstep, Alina felt the past closing around her, wrapping her in a silence filled with the weight of unfinished agendas and secrets meant to die inside these walls. And yet something deeper pushed her on, a feeling that whatever she was meant to find had waited for her, specifically her, across generations. Alina's flashlight beam landed on a reinforced steel door at the far end of the second corridor, its hinges thick as the barrels of anti-tank cannons. Etched beside it were coordinates, familiar ones. They were the same numbers her grandfather scribbled in the margins of his final letter. Her pulse quickened. She traced the cold metal with her fingertips and found a recessed panel beneath years of grime. Inside was a mechanical lock requiring a sequence of rotations. She hesitated. Was this a trap for enemy soldiers or a final safeguard for allies? With trembling hands, she entered the three-number sequence. The bunker rumbled in protest, dust drifting from the ceiling like ancient snow, and the gears groaned as the door cracked open for the first time since 1945. A breath of stale, stagnant air seeped out, carrying the unmistakable scent of oil, metal, and long-dead ambition. Stepping inside felt like stepping into a time capsule sealed during the world's darkest hours. A faint emergency bulb flickered to life, revealing desks scattered with war diagrams, encrypted transmissions, and marked bombing routes across Europe. Yet something else caught her eye. An insignia on the wall the history books never mentioned, a symbol that suggested the bunker wasn't merely a shelter, but a command center for covert operations so secret even the Reich's leadership feared them. Her grandfather had known all this, and had tried to protect her from it. She moved deeper into the newly opened chamber, her boots crunching over shattered glass, fallen ceiling plaster, and decades of untouched history. In the center of the room sat a massive iron table bolted to the ground, its surface covered by maps laminated under thick panes of cracked glass. Swastikas, red arrows, encrypted codes, evidence of misplaced cruelty and manic desperation. But one map stood out, a detailed blueprint of the mountain itself marked with tunnels no one had ever documented. One location was circled 3 times, her grandfather's handwriting. Alina steadied her breath. "Why, Opa?" she whispered. "What were you trying to hide?" She followed the circled mark to a narrow passage behind the main war table, half collapsed but still climbable. Dust choked her lungs as she squeezed through, emerging into a slanted room filled with crated equipment. Old medical kits, blank passports, counterfeit currency, radio jammers. This was a preparation room for officers planning to vanish after the fall. At the back stood a sealed metal crate secured with a deadbolt. Her heart pounded. She felt the air shift as though the bunker itself watched her. With effort, she pried the bolt loose. As the lid slid open, the beam of her flashlight landed on dozens of metal cylinders stamped with Reich gold insignias. She gasped. The legends were true. This bunker had been a wartime treasury, and it wasn't empty. Her hands shook as she lifted one of the cylinders, heavy, cold, unmistakable. Gold bullion untouched since the war. But beneath the stack of cylinders, she found something stranger. A sealed envelope with her grandfather's full name written across the front. Her breath caught. She opened it slowly, revealing a letter written in careful, deliberate script. "Elena," it began, "if you are reading this, then history has once again demanded payment." He confessed everything, how he witnessed officers hiding millions in looted gold during the final days of the war, how he was ordered at gunpoint to seal the chamber, how he escaped with the coordinates knowing the Allies might kill him if they believed he collaborated. He had carried guilt for 70 years, and the letter ended with a warning. "Do not take the gold, take only the document beneath it. It contains the truth. The world is not ready for the gold, but it is ready for the truth." Confused, Elena dug deeper into the crate and found a leather-bound ledger. Names, locations, coded transfers, evidence of stolen fortunes laundered through countries that denied involvement. This wasn't treasure. It was leverage, history, and danger bound in one place. As she flipped through the ledger, she realized the implications. These documents could expose powerful families, corporations, and institutions that still shaped modern politics. Her stomach tightened. No wonder her grandfather feared discovery. The gold wasn't the true secret, the ledger was. Footsteps echoed faintly behind her, jolting her back into the present. Her flashlight blinked. Someone else had entered the bunker. Fear surged through her veins as she hid behind a collapsed beam, clutching the ledger to her chest. Voices in German drifted through the hallway, modern German, not tourists, not historians, professionals, search teams, mercenaries. She didn't know, but they were searching methodically and their gear sounded military grade. Her breath shallowed as she watched their beams slice through the darkness. One of them said, "The girl must not find it. The ledger leaves with us." Her blood turned to ice. They knew. They had been waiting. Elena's only chance was to escape through the narrow passage she entered earlier. Quietly, she slid toward it, careful not to disturb the debris. Every movement felt like dragging fate itself behind her. The tunnel seemed longer than before, its shadows sharper, its air heavier. Her muscles burned as she crawled, the ledger secured under her coat. Behind her, footsteps accelerated. "She's in the side passage," one shouted. Stones clattered as boots pounded closer. Elena forced her body through the collapsing gap, emerging into the main war room just as the first figure entered the chamber behind her. She didn't look back. She sprinted toward the exit corridor, her breath tearing from her lungs, the bunker groaning under decades of renewed vibration. A sudden blast shook the ceiling. One of the men had fired, triggering an avalanche of dust and falling stone. She stumbled, coughing violently, but kept going. The cold outside air felt like salvation as she pushed through the hatch and collapsed into the snow. She slid down the slope, letting gravity pull her out of range. When she finally stopped, bruised and trembling, she looked back at the bunker entrance now shrouded by drifting snow. They would seal it again. But she had the ledger, she had the truth, and she had survived. Elena stood slowly, chest aching, the ledger pressed tightly against her heart. The Alps stretched before her in silent magnificence, ancient and indifferent. She thought of her son, waiting at the small cabin where they had taken refuge after losing everything. She thought of her grandfather, a man burdened by secrets too heavy for one lifetime. And she thought of the men who tried to bury history once more. She realized then that survival wasn't just escaping danger. It was carrying the truth even when the truth was heavier than gold. As she trudged back down the icy trail, each step felt like reclaiming a piece of her future. The world might never know about the $265 million buried beneath the mountain, but it would one day know the truth inside the ledger. Her grandfather's warning echoed in her mind, but so did his hope. In the end,